Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sports Club, a sports podcast presented by the Jamaica Observer. I'm Daniel Blake. Today we'll be focusing on women's sports and what more can be done to get them to a much higher level. Today my guest is someone who is no stranger to sports clubs, literally. Former athlete, award-winning sports journalist, and most recently press officer for the Reggae Girls, Trishana McGowan. Trishana, thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah. I was wondering whether you're going to stop with the titles.
I mean, if you have the titles, then we have to use it, you know.
Like, are there more?
We don't have enough time to go through all of them. But you have a special European glow, like a French glow. You were somewhere recently?
Yes, so I traveled with the Reggae Girls, like you said.
Oh, really? Wow.
Their press officer to France. They were defeated 3-0. But I think, with sports, it's never about just the results on the day, but so much more. Hence the glow. I look foreign. I hope I look foreign.
Yeah.
Make sure so them zoom in.
You have the foreign melanin, because the local melanin different from the foreign melanin.
It is? A little smoother?
No, I'm not going to say it. Anyways, so what was that experience like, especially doing it in a foreign country, because you're no stranger to traveling overseas for events, but what was it like being around the girls and the technical staff and just doing that role there?
So I traveled with them back in 2022, just before they went into the qualification for the last World Cup that they went to. And this time it's just different country. The mentality of the women's team, I think it continuously is on display whenever they do, get to the qualification rounds for the big moments, whether it be for the Olympics, Gold Cup, the World Cup. And I'm happy to see that even with the introduction of new players, the mentality is rubbing off on those. They're adapting to it. And I felt really good to be there. Even with a change in coaching staff, Hubert Busby back as the head coach for the Reggae Girls, taking over from Lauren Donaldson and Xavier Gilbert. But the mentality and the main objective of the team is still very much clear. The business at hand. So even though they were defeated 3-0 to France, which is a team ranked in the top 10, and the introduction of new players from our end, I think that the message and the signal remains the same, and I was really happy to be a part of that. The new players, what I love, this part I love the most, it's not just the women, whether through the local clubs that we have on the island, but these women are playing in big clubs overseas across the world. And because of that as well, they're very professional, very dedicated. And even though it was a friendly, they were not happy that they lost 3-0. But again, like I said, the main objective remains very clear. Yeah,
you've been a long-term supporter of the Reggae Girls when it was strictly local-based players. With it now, 2024, we have more players playing in Europe and so forth. Have you gained a different type of appreciation for the team?
I have, because when you look at the women, like I said, for so long, for me with sports, I follow a lot of sports. I follow the NBA, the NFL, and you see what professionalism is all about. You know the good of it. And it's for people in Jamaica, I see that they're graduating into understanding sports isn't just only about the results. It's about how you look, how you carry yourself, your mannerism across everything. And again, just being in Europe with a lot of these women and them coming from the respective clubs, whether it be playing with the big clubs in England or anywhere across the world, they are professionals. They want things a particular way. They expect things a particular way, not just from themselves and the coaching staff, but everyone around. And that includes myself as a press officer. They want to know what line of questions I might ask, even not knowing that if it's this specific 5. So to see that the women that we have making up our team and the professionalism from them, the fact that they're playing with big clubs, I think that speaks volume. And a lot of these players, even though some might, coming from England because their parents or grandparents are Jamaicans, you have Kadija Shaw, for example, Jodie Brown, Davia Hines, who, these are local people, born, bred in Jamaica, went overseas because of opportunities with football. So I think it's a very good mix, and I'm really grateful to see where they are at the moment.
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago we had some players who were playing in Scotland.
Yeah.
While you were the press officer, and they were like, Trishana, send back some videos and photos, because they were so excited that they had players playing for Jamaica. And I'm sure it's the same time.
It is.
This time around. And it's kind of funny because when you look at the overseas hype around the Jamaican brand in general, but the reggae girls, they're so excited to see like Jamaican women on the big stage.
Yeah.
And then it almost doesn't translate here. I know we've had discussions on different platforms,
but
we have a team who's gone to back-to-back World Cups. We have players playing in the biggest leagues in the world. Why do you think that they still haven't made that breakthrough when it comes to corporate Jamaica saying, hey, we're going to give you $1 billion because you're doing so well?
I think that's a tough question. And I'm going to try and answer it in like a summary, because what people don't understand, I recently did a lecture with New York University, and that was a question asked.
Oh, so I should have added that to your title.
No. And let me tell you something that, you don't look to match up. I think women in sports are now evolving. And that's not just on the field of play, just in general regarding sports. And it's never a competition about what the men acquire versus the women. And I think once we start moving away from that, we will get to even higher heights. We're competing against ourselves in terms of what we are putting out, whether as a press officer, a manager of the women's team, the players, we all have a job and a role to play in terms of what we're selling to corporates. And it's not so much as looking for sponsorship, but I like to call it start looking for partnership, so that we can come together and, give of our best selves, whether through the sponsor as well as the product from the end of the women. And when I was there in France, you saw a number, and even when I traveled with them back in 2022, you saw the support for the women. People were turning out in numbers. No, I think that we have seen an increased number of people showing up at the National Stadium. It will not be the number of that of the men, but where it's coming from to where it's at, you have to look at that and say, all right, we're making progress. It's not where we want it to be. It's not where we know it can be, but you have to have your own metric. And the women metric cannot be that of trying to compete with the men. I mean, it's kind of hard not to when you're in sports to look to compete, but I think that they've made headway, and I'm hoping that with other matches to come and as they continue to get better, corporate will support and spectators will turn out in numbers. Because like you said, they're loved. We're going through the airport and several people that we met, the men were like, oh, we love the women. We love the women's team. We'll follow them. One lady called her husband. He was showing us his shirts. He has Rebecca Spencer shirt and Kadija Shaw shirt. So we know the love is out there. So it's just a matter of keep getting better with hope that it will improve in terms of the sponsorship coming in and the people turning out to support.
Yeah. My only disappointment with that, and I believe that they should get more support from corporate. They deserve more,
yeah.
But I'm thinking that the corporate, products and bodies like who cater to women. So for example, I'm thinking about, those women lifestyle brands. I'm thinking about things like Always, and I don't remember all of them. I'm thinking like, why wouldn't you try to sponsor a team who is big global?
I must stop you right there, right? On the topic of, just in general.
Sure.
I'm not sure if the Jamaica Football Federation, since we're on the topic of our women, I'm not sure if the Jamaica Football Federation even approached Always, right?
No,
but I don't think that I get where you're going. And I think that, again, everything can be, an example. Mm-hmm. They can run in and say, yeah, man, we want to be a part of the women brand. But I also feel like with being strategic, we too, now when I say we, I mean just in general for women's sports, we too can say this is who we need to target. It's more they can tell us no than yes. So two things they say can be true, and I think you believe in that? Two things can be true?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. So I believe that, yes, some can look on and say, yeah, man, I want to be a part of this. But I also think that for women's sports in general, not just with football, sometimes we can target and see if they would want to be a part of.
No, true. But the reason why I say that, because some products and some things sell themselves.
Yeah.
So for example, I don't think, let's stick with the football example.
Yeah.
FIFA didn't need to approach Coca-Cola to sponsor the World Cup, because Coca-Cola knows that the World Cup is the biggest thing. So if they sponsor this, the eyes that they're getting and the sales that they get is through the roof. If I don't want to call specific company names. I would just start. If a women's organization or woman-led product goes and say, you know what, we're going to sponsor the reggae girls, and them see Kadija Shaw, who isn't just big in Jamaica, by the way. No, she's taking Manchester by storm. People are comparing her with Erling Haaland, which is kind of crazy. But imagine she is up there promoting your product like that.
Yeah. I think, like I said, for me, I look at growth and I look at where they're coming from. And it's similar to even our Sunshine Girls or netball team, where there's the constant, need for begging for money whenever they have to travel. So it's tough. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not just for women doing the sport as in athlete players, but also just in general for women in sports. And you have to constantly prove yourself, because whenever these players and, for the Sunshine Girls and the Reggae Girls are going to the big events, you see sponsors coming on board. If we're being very honest, they do come on board if they're going to the World Cup or a Gold Cup. But for overall, I think that, like I said, more can be done from both sides, corporate as well as, Netball Jamaica and the JFF, in terms of targeting people for partnerships.
Yeah. Something interesting happened in September. Mm-hmm. In terms of sticking with women's sports, Alex Ohanian, popular businessman, he refers to himself as the husband of Serena Williams, but he started Athlos in New York, which is women's only track meet, where he was giving out prize money to winners of about 60,000 US, which is more than if you were to run like 2-3 events on the Diamond League circuit.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting, the idea of having a women's only track meet. As a former athlete and someone who, is an analyst and so forth of the sport, what do you make of something like that? Do you think that it is, it's obviously good for the sport, but do you feel like some people view it as almost a pandering to an agenda or anything like that?
You see, let me choose my words carefully, because in a day of social media, why is it whenever things are about women, there's always that second guessing, like, I don't like that. We always get second guess, like there's an ulterior motive. That aside though, I thought it was a brilliant move. The women in sports, again, coming back to, the shortcomings, they're not always compensated the same way as the men, despite women, having some of the fastest times in track and field, producing, number of goals in football, and whatever sport they do. And I believe that he, being a father to girls and also a businessman, he felt compelled to step in and said, this can be done this way. If there should be like an all-male track meet, I mean, people would watch just the same they would watch the all-women's track meet. I'm just saying, though, I thought it was a brilliant move, and I'm really happy that a platform was created for the women and they were compensated properly, because people see a lot of our athletes, playing across the world in various sports, and they think, oh, she's doing so good, he's doing so good. Would they believe that these women are not even being paid close to, right, not even half of what the men are getting? So for him, like I said, I think being a father to girls propelled him to do that. Being a good businessman, having because he clearly can get the support. It was easy for him. Not easy, but he was able to execute it and get the job done.
And this might sound like an unpopular opinion, but I'm wondering why this hasn't been done more over the years. Because I think for example, if you were to have a male only track and field event versus a women's track, I think that more people would turn out and watch a woman, For example, especially here.
As a woman,
let me tell you why. In Jamaica, I think more people would turn out to watch an athlos event versus if a man come up and say, you know what, we just want a men's only.
No, they wouldn't. It's a reason why they merge girls and boys champs, for example.
No, I think
Look at the women's football.
I think that's different.
No,
But
I'm gonna tell you why. Let me tell you why.
No, let me tell you why.
No,
Because
look at Shelley and Fraser Price,
Yes.
Elaine Thompson era, Sharika Jackson, right? And I can go on and on with the list of women who are doing very good in track and field. And the stadium is not as full as when we had the great Usain Bolt, Safa Powell, etc., and the men competing at top level.
No, but you know why people still come inside the stadium?
Me no want know why
Because they want
come.
no.
Me
but
talk
I'm
about
saying-
it being full.
But I'm saying that the women right now, to me, are single-handedly carrying the support.
They've been carrying it for a long time.
No, that's true, and that's why I'm thinking that if we have more of these events, so if Alex says, you know, we
like
want
a
to come
growing
to
thing,
the national stadium, can you imagine Shelley, Elaine, Sharika, Gabby Thomas flying down?
Yeah, I can see that. Even Shakiri Richardson, people love hate her.
Easy.
Yeah,
So-
I agree in
so-
that sense. Then
So I think, particularly with track and field, we've seen women over the years dominate to a level.
Yeah.
Especially if we had somebody like Yulimar Rojas.
Yeah.
A lot of
Triple
people
jump.
got interested in triple jump because of her, you know.
and
we
even
see-
remember Blanca Vlasic in the of Croatia in the high jump. The men fell in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we close, what is one thing that you would love to see change when it comes to women's sports or even the support of women's sports?
I think that we are growing and evolving worldwide. 8 billion people are now, changing their views and perception of women's sports. And that's what I'm happy about. And I hope with that change, it rub off on Jamaica because sometimes we can be caught flat-footed or playing catch up. And when I say support, it's not just support by showing up only, but if you can sponsor an athlete or a player or a club or something, lend that support to the clubs, lend that support to the athlete whenever they ask, or if they ask, or even if they don't, and you see the potential in them, you can do so. And that's really all I can say. If I'm to complain like, oh, there is no support, I'll be lying compared to before. So I'm really happy with where we are, but I know that we can be even greater as a nation with the support of women's sports.
You plan to come out of retirement anytime soon?
No, I'm good with just playing my casual netball to keep fit and active.
So if the Sunshine Girls call you, would you go?
If Sasha Henry should call me, I would go, but I know it would not to be playing wing defense or goal defense. Who may go to? Me can't take Jodie Ward, Shamira Sterling. I don't know their position there.
After you just give an encouraging.
No, I'm encouraging, but I'm sure for other reasons, Sasha can call me and Prezi. No man, I know for roles that them I can fill, man, with the Sunshine.
So why you think you can't play?
I didn't say I can't play, but I'm not at that. I'm mentally.
Anyways, Shoshana, I'm just joking. Thank you so much for joining me, Shoshana.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you will be on for many more episodes. That is it for another episode of the Sports Club, the sports podcast presented by the Jamaica Observer. Ensure that you continue watching on the relevant pages and subscribe to our channels. Until next time, please, safe viewing.